Today, we're going to talk about someone so hated in Chinese history that people still spit on his statue daily. In fact, there are thousands of people in China who refuse to marry anyone that shares the same last name with that special someone. His existence even influenced the Chinese dish of fried dough sticks, youtiao. Of course, we're talking about none other than Qin Kuai, the famous traitor in Chinese history. For someone who lived around 900 years ago, why is he so hated, even today? Before we talk about why this Qin Kuai is so hated on, let's give some background of China at that time. We're talking about the Song Dynasty, which ruled China between 960 and 1279. The Song were pretty technologically advanced and economically prosperous, but militarily speaking, it was not as powerful as the earlier Tang Dynasty. As with other imperial Chinese dynasties, the Song often had to deal with the peoples north of the Chinese Empire, including the Khitan and Jurchen peoples. In 1126, the Jurchens, under the Qin Dynasty, invaded and were set to capture the capital of the Song, Bianliang. The emperor at that time, Huizong, was a very talented artist, even inventing his own style of calligraphy, but he was not a good administrator. When he realized how perilous the situation was, he wanted to flee. However, doing that would cause instability. Therefore, he decided to fake a stroke and abdicate the throne, giving it to his son instead, who didn't even want the throne until his father got some eunuchs and forced him there. Huizong then said bye-bye and fled the capital after forcing his son to take the throne. Truly father of the year material. His son, Qinzong, was now in charge. After giving a city and tribute to the Jurchens, the Jin decided to lift the siege, with the father, Huizong, even returning. However, peace didn't last long. When two ambassadors from the Jin visited, who were former nobles of the Liao, Qinzong decided to send them a letter asking them to collaborate with the Song to form an anti-Jin alliance. The Jin were furious when they found out, and this time the Jin decided to invade and besiege Bianliang again. In 1127, one of the most major events in the Song Dynasty, the Jin Kang incident occurred, where the capital was captured by the Jurchens. With this, both the abdicated emperor and his son were taken hostage by the Jin, and many members of the Song imperial family were taken hostage as well. Eventually, the whole of northern China was taken into control by the Jurchens. It is with this background that we introduce Qin Kuai. For such a famously hated official in Chinese history, it seems odd that there isn't agreement on how to pronounce his name properly. While doing research for this video, I've come across both pronunciations, Qin Kuai and Qin Hui. I went on Chinese Quora, Zhihu, to do some research on this, and there indeed seems to be varied opinions on how to pronounce the name. One user even heard of the name being pronounced as Qin Kuai before. How do you pronounce his name? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, Qin Kuai was one of the people that got taken hostage by the Jurchens during the Jin Kang incident. However, he apparently had a miraculous escape from the Jin. By this time, the Song had already re-established itself in southern China, with its capital in the city of Linnam in modern-day Hangzhou. Qin eventually worked his way up the imperial bureaucracy and became the chancellor of the empire under the new emperor Gaozong. Emperor Gaozong was actually also a son of Emperor Huizong, who we discussed earlier, the guy who abdicated the throne to his son when he found that he was in trouble. However, unlike his siblings who were in the capital at the time of the Jin Kang incident, he was actually caught up in some other stuff outside of the capital. He was therefore not captured and so was established as a new Song emperor, later fleeing further south into Linnam, which was made the temporary capital of the Song. This is a point where the hero of our story, Yue Fei, comes in. Rather than being content with the situation, he and a few other generals tried to reconquer the north for the sake of the empire. He was actually fairly successful and started pushing closer and closer to the captured capital of the Song Dynasty, Bianliang. Right before he was about to conquer it, he got recalled to the court. It turned out that Qin Kuai wanted to broker a peace treaty with the Qing Empire, one that would give the entirety of northern China to the Jurchens, as well as paying annual tributes to the Qing as well. Why would you want to go through with a treaty while your country is stacking victory after victory against its enemies? Who knows? Perhaps Qin Kuai's miraculous escape from the Qing can provide a clue. Other theories also abound, such as Emperor Gaozong fearing his position as emperor would be in peril if his half-brother, Qinzong, is released from captivity from the defeat of the Qing. To go through with the planned peace treaty, Qin Kuai cannot have able generals like Yue Fei running around defeating the Qing. To do that, the emperor recalled him to the capital and framed him in order to try to get rid of him. With that, the Song lost a precious opportunity to capture its former capital. Bianyang was never recovered by the Song thereafter. The Treaty of Shaoxing was signed in 1141. Its terms were not that good for the Song. The Song gave up claims of northern China to the Qing, and the Song were required to pay an annual tribute of 250,000 taels of silver and 250,000 packs of silk, which basically reduced the Song to a vassal state of the Qing Empire. The text of the treaty was said to be so humiliating that the exact text of it has not been preserved in Chinese. Soon after the treaty was signed, Yue Fei was eliminated and was no more. In the eyes of the public, Qin Kuai pretty much sold out the Song Empire. Normally, when it comes to making assessments like these, surely there has to be some benefits in the treaty for the Song, right? Well, I guess one can say that through the negotiations, Gaozong got his mother back from the Qing. As to how the treaty benefited the empire, I'm scratching my head to think of any pros, given that Yue Fei was being pretty successful in his military endeavors of conquering lost Song territory. If you think Qin Kuai was playing 5D chess and actually had any 200 IQ ideas on how the treaty was a better alternative to that, let me know in the comments below. I'll be very interested in listening to them. History was not lenient towards Qin Kuai. He would go down as a traitor in Chinese history. Statues of Qin Kuai were set up in the capital of Lin'an, where members of the public can go and spit on to express their distaste of Qing's actions. Nearby, there's a Chinese couplet posted with one of the lines translating to, "It was no fault of the white iron to be casted into a traitorous minister." Yue Fei's legacy lived on, and he left many descendants. For hundreds of years, they refused to marry anyone with Qing as a surname due to Qin Kuai's betrayal. If you did something so atrocious as some people 800 years later refused to marry anyone with their last name, then you truly screwed up. On a side note, the Chinese dish of youtiao was also said to stem from this episode. In some parts of China, the name for it is youjia-gui, which some say is a reference to Qin Kuai. Two dough sticks, which are said to represent Qin Kuai and his wife, are bundled together and dunked in oil to fry, and then eaten throughout Chinese communities around the world. What do you think about this whole episode of Chinese history? What did you think were Qin Kuai's actual intentions? Let me know in the comments below. If you've made it to the end and enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe. It really helps me a lot.